If you think you cracked the crypto code, if you think you found the right altcoins, the best altcoins, no matter how you found those, I'm going to challenge you today to think about that and actually apply what I'm going to teach you to those altcoins. Do you really have some of the best projects in the space, or do you have bad or just simply average ones? I think the most important thing we have to do, again, as serious investors, if you're not someone who takes this stuff seriously, that's fine. You know, I consider someone who I believe my audience considers themselves a pretty serious investor, or at least wants to be. And so as that person, you want to be criticizing your projects. And if you haven't already done the things I'm going to teach you today and applied that to every single one, well, now's your chance, right? Now's your chance, because I'm going to give you guys, of course, this sheet for free today so you can quickly run through these steps, right? I've just got 6 different sort of A to Z steps that you can just quickly apply to your project. I'm going to give you examples about how they actually work in just a moment. Guys, you know, I get comments all the time saying, Kyron, you know, why are you repeating yourself sometimes? Or Kyron, why you said that again? And it's not because I'm, you know, trying to repurpose content every second day. The reason why I am giving you guys the same or similar information over and over and over again is because you need to understand it. You need to actually apply it. It doesn't come easy, right? It's not easy to make money. And so again, I am your public servant number one in this case. My duty is to make sure you do your research and you get the most returns possible. So with that all being said, let's move over now to the chart and have a look at what I am talking about today. So obviously, we're looking at what makes a crypto good, okay? So if you think you got the best altcoins, let's just make sure you do. So what constitutes a bad and a good project? Well, I've got 6 bits of criteria you need to 100% apply. Like, if you're going to apply anything in crypto to your projects, if you're going to spend any time researching them, I've gone over these multiple different times, but these are the things you have to actually do, period. You're not doing this, you're not doing your research, right? If I was back, you know, a few years ago in crypto when I first started, if I had someone that told me, hey man, this is exactly what you do to find the right altcoins, and this is how you do it, and this is how you look for them. That's liquid gold right there. I can't think of anything better, right? Because you hear different stuff from YouTubers shilling you, but you don't actually know what is important information and what's not, what's superficial and what's not. Like, I once thought, you know, the quality of the investors was super important. That doesn't matter anymore, right? As far as I'm aware and I'm concerned, quality of investors don't matter as much as this stuff. So let's get straight into it. Number one, what's the first thing? Well, the narrative is super important, right? So the narrative will see a little demand in 2025. Well, in that case, it's a bad project. Simple as that, right? So the way I like to the analogy I use in this case is you think about a narrative like prospecting for gold, okay? So as a gold prospect or someone who mines gold for a living, you want to go ahead and find where the gold is. You don't want to be looking in locations where there's no gold to begin with, right? So as long as you just start finding those little locations here and there where the gold is, well, that's essentially what the narratives are, right? So we're just trying to find those little areas where the gold nuggets are or have proven to be in the past. At least search around there, but definitely look into those sort of examples, right? And so a good project will obviously be situated in a highly promising narrative, especially for 2025. And what I've been telling people, guys, is it's simple, right? So if you want to know what narratives are going to be good in 2025, well, look no further than right now, right? So we're in 2023. Essentially, nothing else is going to change in between now and 2025. Not much, right? So we have to look at these sort of narratives. So like AI, for example, what else? Well, layer 1s are always going to be good. Layer 2 is going to be good. Of course, gaming, right? Metaverse might start to pick up a little bit. So you have to look at this sort of stuff. That's the number one thing you should do. There's no point jumping into, like, for example, what we're going to touch on in a second, which is token capture, if your project ain't just going to be capturing any tokens at all, right? There's no demand for the project. Number 2, right, has nothing to offer. Okay, it's got a bad meme, right? So a good project will have a meme that's attractive and easy to grasp. Now, what do I mean by meme? It's a form of propagation, right? So the way I understand a meme is the particular aspect of that project that someone that's just starting off crypto can quickly understand and then go, wow, I want to buy that, right? So for a meme coin, it's easy, right? A meme coin, oh, we've got a bit of utility here. Let's all get around a nice, pretty picture of a dog and let's all buy in because it's going to go to the moon. That's the meme, right? That's the cool little aspect that gets people involved. Well, for all these serious projects that we like, well, what is that actual aspect? We've boiled down all the bull crap, right? We boiled down the stuff like if it's a layer 1 protocol, right? So it might be infinitely scalable. It might have instant finality, for example. It might have, it might be EVM compatible. All that stuff is literally irrelevant. It means nothing, right? We have to figure out what are they offering that is different to the other competitors in that particular narrative, right? What's different about it? So in the case of a layer 1 protocol, well, it might have some sort of aspect that makes it particularly favorable for gaming, right? It might have a really good foundation for NFTs, for example, allow you to be very flexible and customizable, and then get an NFT collection, this collectible from this collection and this collection, and combine them, right? Really cool metadata. So that sort of stuff is a point of difference, and that will allow them to penetrate that particular market, which is number 3, which is it has to have market appeal for the intended users. So obviously a good project is the converse of that, right? So it offers a sound product to its market. So what do you mean by this, Kyron? What do you mean by have a sound product for its intended market? Well, if it is a layer 1, right? We'll start with this. If it's a layer 1 protocol, its intended market isn't end users. It's not you and I using the layer 1, unless it's obviously for payments like Casper Network might be, for example, or Bitcoin. But what a layer 1 particularly is used for, or at least the intended market, is the devs, guys, the developers, because the devs are the people that create the infrastructure, this is buildings, by the way, for the end users, like people like you and me, right? That's supposed to be a person. So if you kind of skip this step, the developers, and try to focus, this is the project speaking here, on the end users, you're missing out on what actually makes the project viable for the long term. Conversely, like if it's another project, let's just say it's a dApp, right? If it's a DEX. A DEX, in that case, is the very end layer. So you got like layer 0 protocols like Polkadot or Cosmos that provide infrastructure for layer 1s. Layer 1s can provide infrastructure for layer 2s. Layer 2s provide infrastructure for dApps, and it can obviously be moved around. So if you are a dApp, if you are on the very end of that stick, right? Let's say again, you're like Uniswap, right? Well, what does Uniswap got to focus on? That's the end users, right? So then in that case, what's it also doing for its target audience, right? Who's it actually targeting, and is it actually targeting it properly in that case? So that's like part of the actual situation here. And the other thing is, are they actually making it a viable product for that audience, right? So Uniswap, are they giving good like rewards, good fees to their people who, decide to bond or put their tokens in a liquidity pool, for example, right? Or for a layer 1 network, it might be, do they have a great framework for developers to build upon? So you have to find what the market actually is and whether they're servicing that market, just like any business in the real world, okay? Think about it like a business. So if you walk into a business and the business is designed to be business to business based, right? They're going to obviously have a really good service for other businesses to use their service. On the other side of it, if it's a walk-in store, right? Like a clothes store, they're going to tailor that business strictly to the end user or the customer itself, not trying to, create a wholesale sort of setup for other businesses, if that makes sense. So it's a business structure we're trying to look here for, guys, right? Number 4, little to no use cases or token capture. This is something I made a video on very recently that's super important to get right. And it's pretty simple. So how is their token being utilized in the network, right? So for their target market, for example, how is then the project, okay, one, hitting the target market, so it's absorbing that demand. Let's just say it does a really good job at bringing developers in, right? And developers are building and building. Well, when the developers get the users involved, how is that token then utilized in the ecosystem? Is it effectively capturing the value, right? Does it need to be used for transfers, to bond, to stake? And again, I've gone over this in a lot more detail in my recent video. You guys should definitely go ahead and watch that, or leave it down below, of course. But effectively, if a project doesn't do a good job at that, and like we've seen with the current state of Chainlink is used 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time. It's a lot of demand coming through Chainlink. But the reason they're updating their economics to get more token capture, token value, is because the price isn't going up because of it. The token isn't actually being used as effectively as it can, and therefore the price isn't going up. We have to be very careful with projects that claim they're a utility token, because if they truly are utility tokens, then there's actually going to be not very good token capture, right? Because it might be used, but where are those tokens going to in the end, right? So we have to look at the mechanisms for capturing the value, bonding, staking, burning, transaction fees, and then where it goes from there. It's a lot to go through. So I'm not going to lie. I want to really direct you guys, if you want to learn more about this, which is integral, to go ahead and watch that video. And number 5, no traction. So is it getting connections, and is it establishing itself in the ecosystem, therefore getting, blowing up the metrics, more transactions, right? On the daily or the weekly or the monthly? Is it they're getting new users, right? New active users are increasing, TVL, things like this, okay? So it's not always about that. It doesn't always have to be going up. I want to say, for the record, it can definitely be moving sideways or going down. But what we're trying to see here is if the project is building in the bear. We always hear about it, building the bear, but truly, the project should be getting at least connections. If they aren't really getting the metrics, they're not moving up to the top right-hand corner, are they actually getting more connections, more partnerships? Are they establishing themselves? We see with Hedera, for example, these guys are constantly getting new governing council members, right? Same with Energy Web Token. They're constantly building and forming connections, which is super important, especially doing that in there, guess what? Target market, right? That is the most important thing. You don't want to be getting connections that just make no sense. And number 6, finally, is manipulative / misleading language. All right, so we want to find projects that present clear, honest descriptions of their project on their homepage. The last thing we want to do is find a project, do all of our research, and then I've found multiple projects like this, by the way, where they use misleading smoke and mirrors language, where they might say, hey, we do 100,000 TPS, and then you read the fine print, and that's on 8 nodes across 7-second period. Well, TPS is transactions per second. You're saying over a 7-second period. Hang on, that does not make much sense. And I've found projects like that before. We have to be careful of their language. Sometimes as well, if they're using extremely complicated jargon that even has got no use case for crypto itself. I've found a project in the past that actually used language that had to do with the constellations of the world, right? So of the stars, rather, of the world. So you got to be careful because that's got no crypto jargon. They're just trying to use complicated words to throw investors off. And believe you me, they do it. All right, they're out to get your money. So don't think for a second that, hey, maybe it's just me overthinking this, right? Be very careful and cautious because as I mentioned down in my checklist, we're going to go through this in a second, it's usually got something larger at play behind the scenes. So let's just run through the checklist really quickly before we finalize this, guys. Again, you're going to have access to this anyway, so use it. You don't have to keep this sheet. Download it, view it, write it down in your notepad or Google Docs, whatever you have to do, right? Number 1, first things first, check the narrative. What kind of narrative is it in and is it going to be profitable in 2025? Number 2, is there appeal for the project? What's the wow factor that differentiates itself from its competitors? And remember, 90% of the crypto market in 2025 is going to consist of people like you and me, retail. So we have to find this because it's all good having all the best connections and, all the types of demand coming from enterprises in the project. But most, again, 90% of the crypto market in the next couple of years is still going to be people like you and I, degens. So we have to look at the degen as well for price appreciation. Number 3, market appeal. The target market for the product/service is compelling and has good reasons to adopt it, right? So obviously you want the people that are actually intended to use the product to have a good reason to use it or develop on it or whatever it might be, right? Number 4, token use cases. The token has strong mechanisms to absorb demand, then appropriately distribute. So how is it the mechanisms taking it out of the supply, token fees, and other sort of things like bonding and staking, and then from there, how is it removing it from the supply so the price can go up ultimately? Number 5 is traction, right? Is there a growing ecosystem or user base? Again, we can check this in metrics, for example. And do they have new connections forming? It's mostly important to have the connections forming, right? And number 6 is deception. A scam isn't always easy to find. However, projects using strange and leering language on their websites is often a sign of something larger at play. If you have any questions, again, I tell people this all the time, gather all the questions you might have during the week about a project in particular or about the crypto market in general and come on my weekly live streams. I have it once a week, every single Monday. I'm here to serve you. I want to answer your questions, all right? So guys, that will do it for today's video. Go down below, use this, please. I'm providing this free of service for you, okay? So I want you to use it. Take good care. Talk to you all soon. Bye.